Okay. This is gonna be the awkward part of the part. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You know what time it is. I know what time it is. Steve knows what time it is. Steve, what time is it?
It is time for the Floor Spacers podcast.
Oh, wait, hold on. There we go. I forgot to press that button. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is true. We are back. The Floor Spaces are back after a 3-month hiatus.
I think it's like 3 months.
It's been a long time coming. I swear I said this every episode. It's messed up. Yeah, 3 months. But listen, guys, we're back. That's what matters. And I really hope we can get some sort of consistent episodes out. I don't know. I can't keep saying this, but we'll try to figure something out.
We're here today. That's all that matters.
Exactly. So, we had to get an episode out before the playoffs started. I'll get notified before tip off, so we should be good. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Because again, we only have it's sort of 7, right? We got about like 4 hours until tip off ish, sort of theoretically.
Something like that.
So we gotta get with the show on the Rizzo. You mean no Sean Rizzo, whatever. Shut up. Okay. Anyway, so to start off, I think with the inferior. Actually, no. Let's start off with the superior conference because I feel like that's easier to talk about. And what better way to start off than I guess the first. Actually, no. Actually, no. You know what? No, I'm tripping right now. What better way than to start off with the set in stone matchups. All right. So in the East, we have the 3-6 matchup, which is Philadelphia versus Brooklyn, and then the 4-5 matchup, which is Cleveland and New York. And just to start off, if you want to get the Sixers Nets one out the way, because I feel like that's kind of more like a given series. I don't want to be, I don't want to not give the Nets credit or whatever. They've been great, they've been cool. But I think Philly should have this one wrapped up within 4 to 5 games in a relatively comfortable series. It shouldn't be I'm not saying it would be blowout or whatever. I'm just saying I think Philly should be able to win this, just not decisively, but you know what I mean, as close to it as you can get.
Yeah, I mean, so Philly has handled Brooklyn pretty much all year long, before and after the trade. So I don't really see Brooklyn being too much of a problem for Philly. So, but with that said, I do like the Brooklyn team. I feel like I don't know why, but I just have a feeling that they're going to take game 1 or something like that, and everyone's going to overreact, and then we're just going to kind of reverse sweep them, finish in 5.
Yeah,
but
I can see that.
So that's what happened with the D'Lo Net series too back in the day. But yeah, I could see it being I don't think they're going to be blowout games or anything like that, because the Nets are a tough defensive team, and I feel like that team does have a lot of guys who are built for the playoffs, but they just don't have that go-to guy. And when it comes to the playoff basketball, when it slows down like that, that's the kind of guy you need. And props to Mikal Bridges for doing what he's done. But in a playoff setting, I don't know if I'm ready to, say that he's a number 1 guy, so to speak, yet.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, obviously, the way that he's kind of emerged after he got to Brooklyn, obviously it's crazy to see. But you were right. It comes to that point where in the playoffs where everything slows down, where, the margin of error comes thinner. How do guys kind of respond to that? And we got to see how Mikal does in that light. But at the same time, it's true. I think the Sixers have the MVP of the league, and the best center in the league in Joel Embiid. Which we might talk about in a future episode, or maybe this episode, I don't know, but you know what I mean? But I think, with all that being considered, and the fact that, Maxey's been going off, he's doing his thing, and then Harden's going to be himself, all of that. So I think it should be a pretty, like I said, maybe a surprise moment or surprise game 1 win by Brooklyn. But I think apart from that, it shouldn't be too much of a hot, you know what I mean? Like a hot debate, whatever. But
I do want to say though, before, Tyrese Maxey has been incredible since the All-Star break. There's been some guys in and out of the lineup for the Sixers, like Tobias missed a few games, PJ Tucker missed a few games. Harden hasn't really been himself because he's he got sidelined with, I believe it was like a calf injury, right, for a little bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
since then, Maxi has really taken off. I think he's like fifth in the league in 3-point percentage for the entire season on like 6 attempts a game. He's like 43%. So
yeah, which is ridiculous.
I would have never expected him to be that high in
Yeah,
percentage, to be honest, and shooting that many, because one of his biggest flaws coming into the league was his shooting. So to see that he's really turning around like that, and that's pretty huge for this team, because we don't really have too many, like, I mean, we're a good shooting team, but we don't take many attempts. So having a high volume guy like that who can make them is really important for us.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think honestly that's one of the scarier, I guess, numbers that kind of popped out when I did see those stats on Twitter a couple weeks ago or last week, I think. And I was like, damn, this dude's like shooting the shit out of it. You mean like it's crazy.
Hmm.
So and even watching the games, you see him like on his pull up. I swear every single time he plays Cleveland, like he always has like, he's always blistering from three and all that. So just all that, it is crazy. I think his catch and shoots like at 50-some% or something like that.
Yeah,
Some crazy stuff,
and
right?
he's like 50% in the corner.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So, yeah, definitely is scary for, I guess, the playoffs going forward. But again, as far as this series goes, I think, again, it's probably more so like kind of done deal, bada bing, bada boom.
I hope so at the very
Um,
least.
yeah, right. I mean, obviously, yeah, yeah, you can't always, yeah, right, but yeah. So I guess again, moving on to, I guess, more of the debated series, is my team, aka the New York Knicks. I'm just kidding. The Cleveland
LOL.
Cavaliers, yeah, Knicks tape, but Cleveland Cavaliers facing the 5 seed New York Knicks. Now this is a matchup that's kind of been brewing for the last couple of weeks. I think that 4 or 5, has been kind of, basically like quote unquote set in stone. There was a little bit of, possibility that Philly and Cleveland could switch spots, but then obviously that didn't happen. And then I think Miami was in hot pursuit of the 5th seed, but obviously again New York wanted it out. So this is kind of a series that people have been kind of, that they've kind of been expecting for a longer time. And so again, I see a comment from one of our dear listeners, aka Ricky. He says Cavs with 3 inequality signs, and I, with no bias, I agree. And
Inequality
honestly,
sign saying less than.
what was that?
Inequality sign saying less than, right?
Oh, right, yeah, sure. But the way I look at it, like just throw the fan perspective out the window, because I think everyone knows who knows me. They've known that I've been a really harsh critic of this team, so far this season. And like I said, I was telling like Steve and all of that in my article that I wrote for 13 Sports. By the way, check it out if you haven't. I wrote that a couple weeks ago, or not a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, or not even a couple months ago. It's more like last month, like March, February. I was like, okay, this team's kind of scaring me a little bit. Like I don't know, what we can really do in the playoffs. Like that sense of continuity wasn't there within the team, which was kind of upsetting me personally. But I think after I kind of said that, I think the team sort of gel a lot more. I think the starting five has been starting to click a lot more. Darius has been on a bit of a cold streak to kind of end the season, but I think he'll get it back. Evan's been looking really good. Donovan's been going off. Jared's been a little bit more of himself recently. Isaac's been doing his thing. And then off the bench, Karras has been absolutely insane. His numbers have been crazy. His perimeter defense has been crazy. He's been getting to his spots. He's been knocking down catch and shoots. He's been doing everything that we wanted to be. So, as far as the season goes, or not the season, the matchup goes between us and New York, I think, um, I think our star power is a little bit more consistent / trustworthy. I think Donovan is obviously clear cut the best player in the series, but obviously I want to give props to Jalen Brunson because he's been crazy this season. But the thing is, I want to see how he does in against us, because we're more of a stingy defensive team. I think the best half-court defensive team. I want to see how he performs versus us, and I think in the matchups that we've had with him, Okoro has been holding him to really to really low percentage shooting wise, and he's kind of struggled against a guy like him. So I think just doing that or keeping that in mind and having the fact that we have Mobley and Jared to kind of shut off Randall's water off, and then again, I think RJ has been a little weird for them this season. I don't know if he's going to be that third star. I don't know if he'll able to step up like that. Despite the fact that I think New York's offense is like number 3 in the league, which is crazy on a Thibs team. But as far as the matchup goes, I think it's going to be a really tight contested one. Again, I was talking to Rick about it last night. But I think I'm expecting the team to kind of pull away in probably 6 or 7 games in a tight, matchup. And then just because, again, I feel like our star power is a little bit more consistent. I feel like there's a bit more ways of us to kind of, maximize our guys before New York can, if that makes sense. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if New York beats us. You know what I mean? I hope not, but I think it go either way. But I think just in like a, I guess like a, like a normal perspective, I feel like it's going to be Cleveland. But I don't know if you agree with me or not, because I know you like this team, but
I feel like it has potential to be a really good series, like a 6-7. But I don't know with how the Knicks have been health wise recently, with Randall not 100%, and also Brunson's been dealing with an injury too, like a hand injury, I think. And he's been downplaying it recently, saying like he's good to go and everything like that. But he's sat out a good amount of games recently, and it's like last month. So it's giving guys like Quickly and Grimes a chance to shine. Even Obi Toppin's look pretty good in some of these games. But with the core guys coming back, I'm not sure how many minutes they're going to be getting. I mean, Quickly's going to be playing a lot regardless. Josh Hart's now on the team. He's going to be doing his thing. He's the guy who won the
which I'm
playoffs.
scared of. Yeah.
But to be honest, I could kind of see Cleveland getting through this in like 5 games. To be honest, too, that would probably be my prediction. I just think this Cavs team's been really good recently. They've really started to gel as a unit altogether. The offense has looked a lot better recently too. I think they're up to like 8th in the offensive rating on the season too. So they're like one of the only teams that are top 10 in both. And
yeah, I think we're 8th or 9th. I forgot. Yeah, one of those two. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I just really like how Donovan Mitchell's played, and as we've seen throughout the years in Utah, he really steps up. He takes another step in the playoffs too. He's the kind of guy you want. So I know you said Darius has been struggling, and yeah, it's efficiency wise, he hasn't been as great in the second half of the year as he was earlier. But I feel like he'll put it together. He's not going to have as much pressure on him as he had last year in that playing game. You could tell that he was really struggling. He really needed someone else on the floor with him. But now he's got Donovan Mitchell and guys like Okoro have stepped up. He's making his threes. The second half of the year, I think he's like, what is he, like 40% since the All-Star break or close to it? If he's
since the new year, I think.
Since the new year, is that what it was? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Karras has really stepped up his game too. I really love how he's been playing the last month or so. So yeah, I think the Cavs could kind of ride this momentum, and I think they're going to get it done in like 5 games. But I would like to see a 6 or 7 game series.
Yeah, no, 100%. And one thing I think, 2 things I actually wanted to say real quick before we moved on. I think the way that Evan's been playing has really opened up my eyes a lot. I think a lot of people had, real high expectations for him coming into his second year, but then he kind of started off a little bit slow. But I think the way he's been playing recently has been insane, right? And I feel like depending on how good he is in this series, it's true. I feel like that's the difference between like a 5-game or like a 7-game. You know what I mean? Series. So. I really do hope he can go off and he can flash, some of that 2-way, insane ability. But I definitely am curious to see how he kind of sets up himself in terms of that mid range and all that, and how he kind of works in the post and all that, and his facilitating, and just overall just his style of play and how he can carry that over. Because honestly, I felt like even last year in the play-in game, I thought he was pretty good. You know what I mean? I felt like him and Laurie were a pretty good big tandem. So if you can bring that, out, I feel like he's. Me personally, again, I love Isaac, and I do want to talk about him too. And I think again, his defense on Brunson is going to be a pivotal thing, and his shot making is going to be a pivotal thing. But at the same time, I feel like if Mobley can really step up and be that third guy on this team, I feel like that would be insane. And I feel like that's probably the difference between having a headache series for the Cavs as opposed to a more of a manageable game. You know what I mean? And going back to the Josh Hart thing, we all know how crazy of a rebounder he is. I feel like New York as a whole, even with Hartenstein and their activity inside, the thing is with our front court, I feel like Jared and Evan, they've been rebounded. They could be better in my opinion, but overall, I think the amount of offensive rebounds that we give up and the offensive rebounds that New York gets, I forgot the rate, but it's insane. So that's definitely one thing to watch for in this series, because I feel like, if we mess up on that, then that could really bite us in the ass. So I hope that, doesn't really, screw us over. And another thing I want to talk about too is I think off the bench, again, Kerr's going to be doing his thing. I also want to see if guys like Chetty can get his minutes. And earlier we were talking about Ricky Rubio and too. I think, he's been a little bit weird this season. I feel like he's had stretches where he looks bad. And then he had a couple of games where he looked pretty decent. And then now he's been, a little bit hit or miss recently too. So I've been telling a lot of people on Twitter and Reddit, I'm like, I think we should be giving minutes to Neto because I feel like his defense will be key on a guy like Quickly, who's been going off this season. So, can provide that playmaking and that energy. So I think in terms of how we're going to handle that second unit as those complementary guys, I think JB has to kind of, play around with that. But as far as that, I think I'd go, Neto, Levert. I think I give some minutes to Chetty here and there. I think Lamar has been doing dirty work, so I give some to him as well. And then as far as that, we really don't have a backup big. But at the same time, I feel like a guy like, again, it's kind of weird I'm about to say this, but I feel like a Diakite could give some spot minutes in terms of having that, that rim running versatility. He can kind of shoot a little bit. So, I wouldn't mind that too much. But I think, overall, I think as far as depth goes, like depth for depth, I do like New York's better. I'm not going to lie, but as far as like top end talent, you know what I mean? I guess like as far as difference makers goes, I feel like I like, the Cavs person a little bit better on that. So that's why it's a bit of a weird matchup, but it should be a good, a tight 1-6-7, you know what I mean? So
I mean, I feel like Rubio will probably get the bulk of the backup minutes, at least early.
Right.
But I can see them going a different direction if it ends up not working out, or if he like stagnates the offense a bit, because he's never been an efficient scorer ever in his career. But with the Cavs last year, at the very least, he was hitting some threes some games. Like, he was at least respectable on the offensive end. And this year, like in the minutes that he's been on the floor, like it doesn't seem like teams are as worried about him anymore.
Yeah, it's been like a shell of himself from last year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, bro, I'm telling you, last year was crazy, bro. I think because obviously it's a contract year, he was doing his thing, but that ACL was just bro. I'm telling you, that was heartbreaking when it happened. But yeah, I mean, hopefully he can kind of rehab and get back to somewhat himself, next season. But I think, and it's true, I feel like he'll probably get the go-to minutes to start off because that's the guy and all that. But I think eventually, based on what we've seen, I think Neto, he kind of has been, doing his thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a more useful backup playmaker. So yeah, so I guess that's really it for the East as far as the set in stone matchups go. So obviously we got Milwaukee at the 1 seed and Boston at the 2 seed. So the play-in as far as the East goes, we have the Heat and the Hawks. They play tonight, I believe, at 7:00.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the winner of that obviously goes on to face Milwaukee, and the loser of that has to play the winner of Toronto and Chicago. So as far as the East play in this year, I see a lot of people on Twitter talking about it. I feel like the consensus is on for both teams for their fan bases. I feel like they're both kind of disengaged at this point. I don't think any of those teams, fans are really like putting too much stock into it. If they make it, they make it. I don't think any of them, expect to kind of move on and beat either Boston or Milwaukee. So it's a little weird, I think, for the East. I think, you know what I mean, because just because of that, kind of that laziness, I feel like, especially the way that the news surrounding the Hawks been going recently in terms of all the internal stuff, and apparently, I guess there's a report now saying that it's Kevin O'Connor, so take it with a grain of salt, but they're saying that they're exploring, or they had the green light to explore talks for what's his face, Trae Young. And then I know a lot of Hawks fans are a little bit weird on how they feel about DeJounte's season so far, and also Clint Capella, which I thought he's been doing good, but apparently Hawks fans have been a little bit weird about it.
I haven't been too crazy about Clint this year, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's crazy. I still think Okongwu should be the guy moving forward, but still, you know what I mean? I didn't hate what I saw from him this season, I guess. I feel like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think there have been some games where he kind of won them some games, but again, it's so that's what I'm saying. It's a little bit weird as far as Atlanta goes. And then again, same thing with Miami. You're talking about the 1 seed last year going all the way to the play-in this year, you know what I mean? And the question of all that is a little bit weird surrounding them. And then again, same thing with Toronto and Chicago. It's like, okay, Toronto, they've been kind of making a little bit of a push recently. They're now the 9th seed, but again, I feel like a lot of fans are kind of disillusioned with this whole run. I feel like they'd rather go out, gonna get a draft pick. Again, same thing with Chicago with, unfortunately, the Lonzo Ball news and all of that. So it's a little bit of a weird situation to talk about, because I don't know if there's really that much, I guess, hype going into it. I don't want to say that because that sounds weird, but at the same time, I think, going into it, it's just a narrative perspective. But as far as my predictions go, I think for the 7-8, the Heat and the Hawks, I think Miami will win. I think Jimmy's going to come out ready like he usually does with a killer instinct. I think he's kind of fixated on getting that matchup. Because obviously, the personnel mindset as opposed to the team and GM or front office mindset's completely different. So I think Miami's going to win that out, and hopefully we should get a good series with them.
And recently too, with the Heat, you could tell that Jimmy has kind of shifted to that second gear of he's ready for playoff mode now. He's really been going off recently, and when they had like a little skid after the All-Star break, that's when he started he started coming into his own. He was like, all right, now we got to start really getting ready because he didn't want them to drop. Like I think there was one point where they dropped to 8. I think Atlanta passed them for like a few games if I remember right, and now that they kind of like they got a few game lead, and they were like now they're kind of setting stone for 7. But Brooklyn went on a winning streak too. I thought I was kind of scared because I thought we were going to be playing the Heat, and then Brooklyn went on that they won like 6 out of their last 8 to secure the 6. Because Miami has looked really good and they've played really well against us too this year. Right. So I was kind of worried about that matchup for the Sixers specifically. But
yeah, I don't wanted that too. I think I said it. I want to get eliminated. I want to see Butler go off again. But we have a question actually on our comments. Steve, you probably know better than I do. We got a question from Ricky. He said, "What's the Heat's lineup going to look like with Lowry doubtful?"
With Lowry, Lowry's going to be playing. He's played they actually played him in the season finale. On Sunday.
Actually, I didn't watch it. Okay.
Everybody played except for Jimmy, which I thought was kind of strange coming from the Heat, especially. But
yeah,
they didn't play too much. I think it's more so because they wanted to have a bunch of guys on the floor for Udonis for his last game, which was actually pretty fire too. He was hitting mid range. He made like 4 straight mid range shots in the first quarter. That was actually pretty awesome.
He had 3 threes too, right?
Yeah, he finished with 24, and D Wade was going crazy on the bench. That was a pretty cool moment. But in terms of Lowry, I think they're probably going to continue to have him come off the bench. They don't really have much time to figure out if it's going to work or not because obviously they're in the plan. But I'm sure recently Gabe Vincent, since entering the starting lineup, he's been a much more reliable shooter to play off of for them, and he's a more natural off-ball fit as well next to guys like Jimmy and Bam. And so having Lowry come off the bench, and I feel like that could be good, especially considering that their benches, they probably have the weakest bench in the East, I'd say. So having a guy like Lowry come off the bench and kind of give that second unit a little jolt would be not a bad thing for them. And Lowry, he has been a shell of his former self this season. Like obviously he's gone through like personal things in the last 2 years and as well as injuries.
Yeah, but
I still think he could be he's still definitely one of their more valuable pieces in the rotation for sure going into the playoffs. But yeah, the Heat, it's actually pretty interesting too because the Heat have been trying out a couple different lineups recently starting. I think before their season, the last game when everybody played, they were experimenting Jimmy at the 4, Bam at the 5 in their starting unit, and they started, I believe it was Vincent, Hero, and Strus, and they moved Kevin Love back to the bench.
Yeah,
because he hasn't really looked too great in his minutes with the Heat, to be honest.
Yeah,
but they had Love come off the bench, and they kind of went smaller in the starting unit, which also gives them a little more versatility. I don't really understand having Caleb Martin come out of the starting lineup to begin with because I thought he was actually playing really well for them.
Yeah,
begin the year.
I thought the decision to start that's my boy, but I thought that was I agree. I thought it was a little weird, but yeah.
Yeah, but they're trying a few different lineups, and I guess that's cool. I also recently noticed that Oladipo has kind of lost his spot in the rotation as of recently. I mean, he played the last couple games. I don't know if it was out of just them needing guys to play minutes or not, but he was out of the rotation for a while, so I don't know what his minutes are going to look like. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what they go with in terms of their lineups because they don't really have many reliable guys. And then they also have the ghost of Duncan Robinson on their bench making $90 million not playing.
Yeah, dude. That first of all, that's a crazy situation. But no, going back to because I was going to talk about the Oladipo thing for a little bit because they're having games this year. I think most notably there's been the Lakers game. I think it was one of the Sixers games. I think there was like a Celtics game or whatever. There's been a couple of games where I think Oladipo's been kind of doing his thing. And he was actually looking like he's gonna be like that, that spark, the spark plug off the bench type role. And remember thinking back then those games, I was like, okay, like you know what I mean. This is something that you can kind of bring in the postseason. But I mean, yeah, you're right. It's been a little bit more quiet as of recent, but at the same time, I think the way with the way that Spo kind of does his lineups, I feel like he always values like those like vet guys. I mean, we kind of see it with the Kevin Love thing and that's another thing too, because I feel like their bench is pretty weird, and so I think it's going to be a lot of like heavy, I guess like splitting minutes with the way like Butler and Bam's on there. So I think as far as who they have off the bench that's available, if you want to, again, like throw Lowry here and there, you want to throw in, Oladipo here and there, throwing Kevin Love here and there, like you have options. And again, like Gabe Vincent, guys like that, like you have options. It's just, I mean, it's true. It's not, you can't really have like a strong second unit. This is more like you can sprinkle guys here and there type beat. So, and again, it's the playoffs. So obviously the rotations get tighter. So that's obviously a natural thing, but I think that's definitely one thing I feel like, Pat Riley should have, addressed over the summer, because I feel like a lot of people do say it. I think the trust that the team has and kind of the undrafted guys, like it's cool, like they're good, but at the same time, like I feel like you need to kind of make more moves in terms of getting more strong, I guess, role players, kind of more consistent role players onto your team, not guys that are coming off of injury or not guys that are older in age. So regardless of how this postseason goes for Miami, I think they need to address that. I mean, I think they'll have money coming up. I think obviously the Duncan Robinson contract is not going to be too helpful, but they have that. Again, they're in Miami, so they should have the ability to kind of draw some people in. They have Jimmy Butler there, Bam Adebayo. So and again, like I said earlier, it's like going from a first seed to struggling in the play-in tournament. It is kind of crazy. Like it's I think it was a situation that could have been avoided if the roster construction was a little bit more better done, but at the same time, like it didn't. So that's what I deal with now. So but yeah, I think regardless, so I think again, great point. I think Jimmy, obviously he's been turning it up in the second half of the season. So I think he'll do what he does best. He'll turn up. I think he'll win. And I feel like they're going to give us a really good series against Boston. It was a good series last year, and I think schematically speaking, I don't think too much has changed. So I think again, it should be another good one this year, and I would be down for an upset. You know what I mean? I mean, we were like what that 3-point shot that rimmed out was the difference between an upset and not, or not an upset, quote unquote. But still, you know what I mean? So it should be a good series. I think Miami has it tonight. They'll move on, in my opinion. And then as far as other game goes, Toronto versus Chicago. This is a little bit more of an interesting one, just because I feel like, again, it's like I think, Toronto, with the way they are, we all know how it is. It's like, they're stingy team. The way they've been playing recently has an interest, to say the least, kind of making that late push again. I feel like Fred VanVleet's kind of been back on his footing. I feel like he kind of regained some of that. And then I think I saw stats somewhere recently saying OG Anunoby he's like one of two 50, 40, 90 players, I think, this season. So it's like, again, we know what Toronto is. Yeah, he's been lights out. Like he's been crazy. So I think we know what Toronto is. I think theoretically speaking, they should be able to win. But at the same time, I think Chicago, the way that I feel like I like the way Vucevic has been playing recently. I think Levine and DeRozan will be doing their thing. This is more of like, again, like you can't really tell. Like I don't know if I can really pick in this one, because I feel like it's, I guess, whoever shows up tonight. You know what I mean? I think Toronto's home court, right? So maybe if you want to go based off that, we can go Toronto. But again, a little bit of a weird game. I don't really know what either team really has to gain if they do advance. You know what I mean? I just, again, what I said earlier, I don't think like they really benefit from it. But I think as far as it goes, like again, on paper, I don't know. I guess I'll go Toronto, but again, probably be a little bit more of a contested game. I can't really tell for sure. I mean, again, I haven't really been watching Chicago like that recently. I watched some Toronto games here and there, but Chicago, I haven't really been watching them as much. But I know they've been kind of, I think last week or the week before, I think they had a really hot shooting stretch for a little bit. And they've been kind of getting a little bit more healthy and all that. So again, we really got to see how it is. But
I feel like both of those teams have some momentum going into this. Like they're two of the teams that kind of like turned it around following the trade deadline, and obviously the buyout market in Chicago's case with the Beverly pickup. But both of them have kind of been middling all season in terms of the standings, and like you said, like the point you made earlier that like these teams kind of their fans kind of like being done and wanting this dreadful season to end, regardless. Like to be honest, I don't see either one of Chicago or uh Toronto making the playoffs. I wouldn't mind seeing Chicago to be honest, just because of how well they've played recently and the defensive intensity that they've played with. They're like a top five defense overall in the season now. They
Oh,
like
that
they
is
were
true. Yeah, that is
like
true.
before the
Yeah, my
Beverly
bad.
pickup, they were already pretty decent. Like, but since the Beverly pickup, like they've been really good. It's kind of like mirroring what Lonzo and Caruso were doing, but you have Beverly now.
Mhm.
But speaking of Caruso, he's been incredible all season long on the
Oh
defensive.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
like I don't know if we're going to do an awards episode, but I will say this: I would have Caruso first team all defense for
First
guards.
team. Yeah, I like that. I was
I
about to
think
say, yeah,
I think he's been that impactful, really.
mhm, yeah.
And we've given Levine his criticism over the years for his defense, but I don't think he's a good team defender. But I feel like he's been a really good one-on-one defender this season. Not like I wouldn't say he's been elite, but he's been holding his own really recently. And then
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I appreciate him like kind of making strides on that end too,
yeah,
because you have a lot of guys in that roster who are liabilities on that end. So having a few guys who are putting in the effort now has really seemed to make a difference.
yeah, 100%. That's a great point too, because I think that is true. I did forget to touch upon that because I think I saw a bunch of stats and metrics looking for Caruso, and his impact has been insane. I think there was that chart in terms of I think it was like matchup difficulty and like I guess their efficiency against those players, and I think Caruso was like all the way like top right. It was insane,
He's top
bro.
tier.
Like yeah, just gapped everyone else. So I think just seeing that is ridiculous, but that's definitely true. And I think, we said it last year, I think too, it's just the craziest thing about Chicago, it was so weird. It's just like their perimeter is what's anchoring the team on defense. And like
Hmm.
it's really good. You know what I mean? It's really scary. So with the way they've been doing that, and I think Patrick Williams has been insane on defense
He
as
has
per
he's been good
usual.
this year. He's hitting his
Yeah,
shots too now. He's like
yeah,
40% from three
exactly.
this year.
Right, exactly. So he's been looking good. And I think as far as uh, like I think I talked about it before a little bit. I think Vucevic. I think as far as the recent, I like what I saw from him inside. I think he's kind of been more of a. My internet's being weird. I think he's been kind of a little bit more of, I guess more of a presence inside. I feel like before he'd kind of just be like, all right, I'm gonna just stay in here. I'm gonna just stay in here. You know what I mean? But I feel like in terms of trying to get up and trying to contest shots and getting rebounds, and just kind of hitting shots a lot more. I feel like he's been a little bit more aggressive. He looks more, I guess, integrated with this team. And so I got to give him props for that because I feel like again, like I usually give him shit because I don't like the way he plays and I don't think like he's a center that you can win with in the playoffs. But at the same time, I think the way he's been kind of, I guess, being himself, I guess, has been kind of a bit more, I guess, impressive. Again, I still got to see how
Mhm.
that kind of matchup goes in the first round, but still, like, it's like they do have the ingredients. I don't want to draw on them, but at the same time, it's like with the way they are, I don't know. They again, same thing with Miami. They just gotta see what they can cook in the offseason, try to like fill up some holes. But at the same time, that defense is crazy though, because I think with that you really could scare some teams. You know what I mean? So,
I
yeah,
do
it's a
think
great point. I definitely should have said Cruz about something about Cruz sooner because he's been doing his thing. Yeah, my
I,
bad. Yeah.
I I do think that probably the best thing that could happen in the play-in out of like all the besides like out of like the Hawks, the Raptors and the Bulls, I would love to see Chicago make the 8 seed just so that way we can get the Patrick Beverly play-in celebration for 2 years in a row. Patrick Beverly, just the all-time greatest play-in player, bring these teams out of obscurity into the playoffs just to get beat in the first round by the Milwaukee. I
Bro,
mean,
I'm
because
telling you that. Bro, the crazy thing about last year, because I remember watching that live, bro, and I'm like, bro, it's like obviously the memes came out, but it's like, bro, it's as if they won a championship, bro. You know what I mean? Like the way that like Cat was like holding like Jordan Woods and all that, and like, bro, that was actually hilarious. Like that was a great time, and hopefully again, yeah, he
I mean,
comes up.
I don't know if it'll have the same effect with this Bulls team because these are a bunch of guys who have been in the playoffs in the past and they have a lot more veterans than that Wolves team did last year.
Yeah.
But just just to see Beverly like jump up on a table and just celebrate with like confetti or something like that, I would love to see that again.
No, I feel like if anything, this year he might be a little bit more hyped because he's from Chicago, so he'd probably be like, "Yeah, it's
Yeah,
my city or something." You try to gas it up. He's like, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, for sure. That's That's gonna be good. Couple more comments from Ricky. Chicago was mad underwhelming. I was hyped for them. Miss Lonzo. I do agree. I think we all did. It sucks that, with the whole Lonzo situation, which I guess we might talk about soon, but
He's going
it
to be out
sucks
for
what
this
happened.
foreseeable future too, which
Yeah.
is
And we don't
very,
even get to
very
play
unfortunate.
basketball again, which is messed up. So yeah, hopefully, bro, like again, hopefully Chicago can kind of handle that in the summer and he can come back. But it's definitely true. And he said LMAO to the Patrick Beverly thing, which is indeed funny. Playing GOAT right there. That's my boy. I love Pat Bev.
Yes, sir.
Um, so I guess switching gears to the Western Conference. So again, this is the inferior conference, but as far as conversation goes, I guess it is the superior conversation starter, whatever the hell you want to call it. Just because I think the consensus around like Western Conference this season is the fact that it's so wide open.
Hmm.
I think the best example of that is just the mere fact that the number 3 seed Kings are the underdogs
And
in that.
it's a pretty wide margin underdog too. They're plus 215 to win the series
Right.
against Golden State,
Yeah,
which is
which
wild.
is ridiculous. Yeah, and that's another thing too, because I remember again last year I said it, like we all said it last year. It's Golden State, no matter how weird they are in the regular season, like you know what I mean. You can never count them on the postseason. That is true. That's one part of the argument for sure. But at the same time, I feel like even if it's a different team, I feel like people don't give them their flowers as much as they should. And it's same thing with Denver too. I feel like a lot of people think um they don't really believe in Denver as a threat. Or
Which
you know what I
is
mean,
ridiculous.
which is ridiculous too. And I agree. And I think that's the craziest thing about the West this season is the fact that no one's really giving any team an edge per se. It's just whoever wins wins. You know what I mean? And I like that a lot. I think a bloodbath is like probably the best way to go about it. Obviously, and I think that's I think as far as the West goes, I definitely am more, I guess, tuned in just because I want to see all the drama that unfolds. I want to see all the beefs and storylines that come out of it.
Especially
Um,
early too, because the East this year the East was very top heavy. Like
yeah,
I feel like most people are at consensus. We know that the top four in the East are going to be moving on, other than
right,
like that wishy-washy Cleveland New York matchup. But I think
yeah,
Cleveland does indeed have the edge there.
yeah.
But in the West, things are a lot more interesting because almost every series it seems can go either way.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. You really can't take any chance. It's like a bettor's nightmare. You know what I mean? If you do bet on the series. So, but yeah, if we're doing the same thing as we did last time, starting off with the 2 set in stone matchups, start off with the 3 and 6 matchup that I just touched upon, the Kings and Warriors. And I mean, like I basically, kind of just said it. So obviously we all know what Golden State, how weird they've been, the defending champions though, nonetheless. But at the same time, we know how weird they have been on the road, how really kind of inconsistent they've been as far as that goes. And then coming into the season, I think we both talked about how much of a fall off there's been as far as their I guess their depth compared to last season. Obviously got Gary Payton and those guys back, but at the same time, I think then obviously not DiVincenzo, which also he deserves some love because I think he's been doing his thing. But I think as far as it goes, I think the team as weird as they've been, I think again in the playoffs, it's just a team that you really can't write off. I don't think um, people should really kind of underestimate them, and I don't think they are. I don't think they have been, but at the same time, like I'm not really surprised by the fact that I guess people are picking them over Sacramento. But at the same time, I want to give Sacramento their credit because their offense has been insane. You know what I mean? Like that team has been so fun to watch this season. I think the fact that they got Herter, got a comment from Ricky. Street Team the King series win. 100%. I agree. As a full time Golden State hater, I 100% agree. I do need this Kings win.
That's crazy.
Um, but at the same time, though, I think a lot of people should kind of chill with the Kings disrespect just because, dude, they've been insane, bro. Their offense has been so fun to watch. I think it's been well documented. Um, the way that Sabonis has been doing his thing. Again, Herder has been shooting lights out. And then obviously De'Aaron Fox has been the guy that we wanted him to see or wanted him to be. So, and then again, that team is just so fun to watch, and I feel like a lot of people are kind of writing him off just because again they're facing the Warriors and it's like a Mickey Mouse 3C whatever blah blah blah. But I genuinely do like the way they play. It's not a style of play that can be disrupted, I feel like, easily in the playoffs. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of teams have an offensive system that you could be like, all right, a team can play like a 2-3 zone, they can be out of the game. You know what I mean? But I feel like the way Sacramento's set up, again, major props to Mike Brown. He's probably gonna be the coach of the year candidate. I think Sacramento definitely deserves some love. And again, as far as who I'm picking, like I think Golden State might win. Like I think they're probably going to win. I need a Sacramento win, but at the same time, I think I think a lot of people are writing them off for no reason, just because the way that Sacramento's been kind of going about it this season has been insane. And I feel like, again, I gave them shit last year for the way they handled the Tyrese thing, but I think the way they've rebounded and kind of built that roster, just has been great. Has been 100% great. Construction. I feel like, again, all their guys have been doing their thing, and I feel like a lot of people do shit on their defense too much. I feel like that's been a little bit too unwarranted. Obviously, I'm not going to say it's a great defense or anything crazy, but at the same time, it's like I feel like their defense should be able to kind of hold its own, I guess, in the postseason. That's not really my primary responsibility. My main concern with Sacramento, I feel like, as it is right now, is probably, again, just see how far Sabonis and what's his face and Fox kind of take that team. Again, star power does go a long way in the playoffs. And then again, hopefully, again, Herder, guys like Herder, Barnes, Malik Monk, they can kind of come in and do their thing as well. So there's a lot of I guess factors that go into it, but I think a lot of people have been disrespectful to Sacramento. I feel like kind of unfairly, but that should be a really good series too. You know what I mean? But I'll shut up now, Steve.
No, I do agree. Like me personally, I'm taking Sacramento to win the series, and
Really?
it probably is a hot take to most people, but with the way they've played all season, I don't really think it's that inconceivable because like you've touched on, Golden State, they kind of took a step back this year, and some people will blame it on injuries, others will blame it on other things, but at the end of the day, they weren't really playing that well when fully healthy either, with Wiggins, with Steph, and everybody. They've been kind of floating around 500 all year long. They've went on stretches with Steph out. They've went on stretches with Steph in. They've went on cold streaks with him in and out. So I don't really think that's as big of a factor as people make it out to be.
Yeah.
But I will also say that it wouldn't surprise me if they did win, because they're the Golden State Warriors at the end of the day. They have the benefit of the doubt. They've won 4 rings together.
Yep.
Steph Curry is one of the best players in the league. Klay Thompson's really found his way in recent months. He's been on incredible tear since
unfortunately,
end of December. He's been insane. And Jordan Poole, he's had his struggles, but I feel like he's pieced together some really good games recently. But the reason I'm picking the Kings over the Warriors is I just feel like I feel like the biggest thing, the biggest difference between these two teams is their play on the road.
Yep.
And with Sacramento, sure, you can show them their defense all they want. It's not good. They're like 24th in defense, I believe, on the year. It's not, their defense isn't good, but their offense is like historically good. They're like just under 120 points a game. And I believe on the road, they have the best road record in the West. I think they're one of like,
I didn't know that. Wow.
They're one of like 2 teams in the West to have like a positive record on the road.
Damn.
And they're like fairly well over 500 on the road in the West. I think they have a better road record than home record, actually.
Really? Damn. Okay.
But yeah, the Kings have been good on the road, and their defense isn't good, but they have the 8th best. I just saw this a couple days ago on Twitter, but they have the 8th best defensive rating on the road in road games in the league. So, and one thing about their offense is really good whether they're at home or on the road.
Yeah.
And offense travels, to be honest. Like we've seen Herder do it all year long. We've seen Keegan Murray making threes all year long. We've seen Sabonis be the engine of this offense all year long.
Right.
We've seen De'Aaron Fox close games for them all year long. Their efficiency in the clutch is ridiculous. If the game comes down to the wire, I'd take those guys and I believe in them to make the shots when they count, when they matter most. Right. So I think too many people are counting them out. I'm going to take them, but I do kind of fear that the inexperience will come into play when facing a team like the Warriors in an actual series going game to game. So we'll have to see the adjustments. But like you said too, Mike Brown, he's been in the playoffs before. He's an experienced coach, and he's got some really good young players.
And not to mention he knows Golden State system, so I feel like he knows what they might run here and there. So
Yeah, it's a really
uh,
fun matchup.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna be great, and that's what I was saying earlier too. I think again, yeah. So again, like you said, like number 8 defense on the road, and I feel like some of the games I've been watching from them, obviously again, it's not their strong suit, but I feel like there has been games where I feel like they kind of strapped down when they needed to, and kind of similar to what I was saying with Vucevic earlier. Again, like I feel like Sabonis, like again, not the greatest defensive center, but I feel like the way that he's been kind of assert himself in the interior, I think like that's been kind of a go-to thing. So, um, and I think we said it earlier in the season too. Obviously, it's pretty funny how Golden State for a little bit at home they were playing like the 2016 Warriors at home,
Hmm.
which is pretty funny. But I think as of recently that kind of cooled off a little bit. But still, regardless, again,
It's actually pretty crazy when you think about it too, because it was just last season where the Warriors had this like they were like incredible on the road, and people were like, "Oh, it's the road Warriors. They're insane on
oh
the road."
yeah,
And now
yeah,
this year they can't buy a win on the road. They're like 11-30.
right. It's so weird, bro. Basketball is such a crazy. It's so weird, but yeah, I think this matchup has like it's going to be really fun just because all these like factors we just mentioned. Just again, I think as far as Kerr versus Mike Brown, I think it's going to be a good chess match too. So it's definitely really fun. I can't wait to watch it. I think it's going to be good. Again, I feel like
We need to see the beam lit in the playoffs.
100, bro, real rap, bro. There was a one game like I think a month ago, and I think Herder had that one like clutch three, and like the
Uh-huh.
whole like bro, the whole arena was loud. It was
Dude,
crazy loud, bro.
they've got one of the best fan bases. It's fun.
100%, bro. Like
They haven't had a
seriously,
playoff game in
props.
16 years. It's going to be that first game is going to be insane.
It's gonna be insane, bro. Major props to Sacramento because, bro, like the fact that they came out after all these years, and you know what I mean. Major props. So I can't wait for that, bro. I can't wait for them. I'm happy they're back. Again, next step for the irrelevant teams. I want to see again Washington and Orlando kind of follows suit, which I think Orlando will. But
I wouldn't
again,
say Orlando's an irrelevant team.
well, as far as like out of the postseason loop type beat, you mean? But obviously
Oh, okay.
they've been good this season. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think they're gonna be scary next season for sure. So, but yeah, so that's gonna be a great series. I can't wait for that for sure. And then moving on to the 4-5 matchup of the West, which I am also very, 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 very excited for,
Hmm.
which is the number 4 seed Phoenix Suns versus number 5 Los Angeles Clippers. So again, as far as the recent games have gone, the Clippers being the 5 seed was a bit more of a recent development. But again, I'm glad it worked out the way they did.
Can
Because
I
I
say one?
think
Can I say one thing about that real quick?
my bad.
There
Yeah.
were so many people recently like that were actually like mad that the Clippers tried to win that last game of the season against Phoenix when they were resting everyone. And with the Clippers winning that, they clinched the 5 seed. If they would have lost, it would have been the 6 seed. But
Yeah.
like, if they would have been losing, people would have been clowning them. They're like, "Oh, you're trying to avoid the Suns," and now they win. And it's just
It's
double
like, yeah, you
standard.
can't win with that. Right?
And
I'm telling you, bro. The
and
narratives are crazy, bro. You know what I mean? They'll jump at anything, but
and the thing is,
um,
like, you're going to have to play them regardless later on.
yeah, right.
So why not try to beat them early? I mean,
Mhm.
I know you don't have Paul George, but either way, you're going to have to play them. So you
Yeah,
have to beat the best teams regardless. So why not
yeah,
play it early when you have everyone healthy? Because you never know. They've had Kawhi go down in the postseason before. So
yeah.
why not clinch the spot and secure your place in the playoffs rather than like try to lose these games?
Exactly. And that's another thing too, because I think speaking of the Paul George thing, I think they said he's gonna be out for the beginning of the series, right? So
Hopefully that
I'm
only means like a game or two.
I'm praying. I hope it does. You know what I mean? I hope it's only game one, if anything. But if it's game one and game two, whatever, fine. You lose. Well, they're 5 seeds, so you'll be back home for game 3 and 4. So, and hope you get Paul George back. But as far as the matchup goes, again, like I think, with the way that again Los Angeles plays, with how wing oriented they are, how easily switchable they are, and I think, bro, the Kawhi KD matchup, I can't wait for that. You know what I mean? Paul George again, put him on Booker. Again, the Ayton, Zubats inside should be fun, and then Chris Paul and I mean they're probably start what's his face what's his name?
Okogie.
Yeah, Kogi too, right?
What are you
No,
talking
for
about the Clippers?
Clippers,
They're
what's his
going to be
face?
starting Westbrook.
Yeah, Westbrook, but then they transitioned from him to Dude, what's the bull from New York name, bro? I forgot his name. I'm a dickhead right now. I'm blanking out.
You talking about Marcus Morris?
No. Bro, the young dude. Wait, bro. Who am I talking about? Their point guard.
Terrence
The
Mann?
defense. Huh?
Terrence Mann?
Terrence Mann. Yeah, my bad, bro. I'm stupid as shit. Oh, my bad. I just brain farted so hard there. Terrence Mann again. So we said it before. Like obviously the Westbrook thing's a little bit weird the way he starts off games, but I think Terrence Mann coming in for defense and the way he'll handle the the backcourt defensive assignment's going to be interesting. So as far as as far as the matchups goes, that's why I'm really interested for this series is because I feel like the Clippers could really kind of take away from Phoenix's scheme. Again, I feel like in terms of you name it, isolation defenders, Clippers have it. If you want some team defenders like Rocco, you can bring them for spot minutes. They have it. So, I think that's why this series has the potential to be really volatile because it could really go either way. Again, Katie's been insane. You know what I mean? I think there was a stat, he's like 55, 40, 90. He's been ridiculous. They're undefeated with him when he plays. So I think, with that being considered and the fact that, again, hopefully Paul George will be back. And as far as on paper, the matchups will be pretty much like even. I think, it should be a really fun match. And I think, again, as far as who I think will win, again, I'm going to go with, star power because that's usually what happens. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if, the Clippers can really kind of batter it down. Because again, we've seen it last year, bro. We've seen the way that, Boston kind of played Brooklyn last season, the way they kind of able to shut down Katie and Kyrie. So I feel like if Los Angeles kind of watch some of that film, kind of sees that Katie's, defeatable in the playoffs, like we know he is, you know what I mean? I think I wouldn't be surprised. Again, you could go either way. It's like the New York Cleveland matchup, you know what I mean? But just because of the upper tier star thing, and also because Los Angeles has the health issues. Really got to see how that goes, but I'm gonna say Phoenix probably in 6 or 7 games, assuming everyone's healthy. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a whatever, it can go either way. You know what I mean? But
I'd probably go Phoenix in like 5 or 6, but I do think that the Clippers do have the depth advantage over Phoenix. I will say that. Phoenix is still kind of figuring things out with their whole bench unit. They're just like, it seems like they're just in the games with KD, they've just been like pretty much trying to experiment with different guys, see who fits where. They were still trying to figure that out for a while, but it looks like it's probably going to be like off their bench. Cam Payne, Torrey Craig, and Landale are probably going to be like their main guys off the bench with a little bit of T. Ross, TJ Warren for like offensive sparks. But guys like Damian Lee have fallen out. Oh, actually, no. Shamit's definitely going to be in the rotation. He's been actually pretty good for them recently. He's been closing some games. But yeah, like I said, they've been trying some different lineups and figuring things out. The big thing for them is similar to the Cleveland, where they just kind of need that. They just kind of need to that whoever that reliable fifth guy is on different nights, they'll kind of just plug that in with the four starters. Like if Okogie's making his shots one night, his defense is very valuable, so I'm sure they'd love to keep him in if they can. If he's making his shots, some nights it'll be Shamit, some nights it'll be Torrey Craig. They have a few guys they can go to in the right spots. So a lot of figuring that out still. But the Clippers, they have a lot of guys on their bench. They have Norman Powell, they have Eric Gordon now, they have Mason Plumlee now, they have what's his face, Rocco back in the rotation.
Yep.
Morris is kind of falling out. Their defense was actually pretty bad. Yeah, he's been really bad, but he's out of the rotation now, which I think is a good move. Batum's in the starting five. In this series, I think I'm curious to see how many minutes they go with Zubac, because in the past, the Clippers really like to go small in the playoffs with guys like Batum at the 5 or Rocco maybe. But in a series against Phoenix, I don't know how much Phoenix is going to be going small, because behind Ayton, they have like Landale and Biyombo. Biyombo's hurt right now. I don't know if he's going to be playing, but I don't know. I don't really know how much you could rely on Landale in the playoffs, as much as I like him in the short amount of minutes he gets. But they've been experimenting with some KD at the 5 minutes, so I feel like if we do see that, the Clippers are well equipped to go small with them. So that could be interesting in matchups there. But yeah, I do think this will be a good series. It should be. The KD Kawhi matchup by itself is really cool. I don't know I mean, we've probably seen it in OKC in gold with Spurs OKC, but Kawhi is a much different player now than he was then. So we haven't really
And
seen like,
Toronto and Golden State too, right?
oh, true. But KD played like 10 minutes in that series though. So
That is true. Yeah, that's true.
we're getting booed
Uh,
off the floor by the Raptors fans when he got injured.
bro, that's why we don't like Toronto, bro. Weirdos, bro. Weird ass
I
fans,
wouldn't
bro.
I wouldn't say we, but that was
Oh,
uh that was fucked up.
yeah, really weird. But yeah, so again, it should be a really fun series, and I really do hope that Paul George can be back because I feel like again that's more of
Mhm.
the swing factor too, his health, and again hopefully Kawhi can stay healthy. He has been pretty good, pretty or relatively healthy recently, and again he's been doing his thing. He's been knocking down his shots. I think his 3-point percentage has been really good recently. So
And I do want
again,
to say, I do
yeah,
want to say, for as much criticism as I've given Westbrook over the past like 2 seasons with LA, with the Lakers, I mean, he is up to he's been pretty solid with the Clippers so far.
yeah,
I do still think that they should cut down the minutes just a little bit. I don't think he should be playing like 30 plus in the playoffs because there are going to be those games where they're going to be willing him to shoot.
yeah,
But he's like 35% from three with the Clippers in his tenure there so far.
yeah,
His shots gotten a lot more. His shots been a lot better, and I feel like their offense has really benefited from it so far.
yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
in a playoff setting when it slows down, I don't know how much that's going to change, but the sample has been pretty good so far.
Mhm. Yeah, so yeah, that's a great point. And I think hopefully he can kind of hoop a little bit. And then I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Ty Lue kind of just does what he's usually doing where he starts him off and then again, yeah, bring what's his face off the bench? I forgot his name
Terrence
again.
man.
Terrence Mann, have him play a little bit defense, like you said, Eric Gordon. So yeah, as far as like their depth goes, like I guess I do like Clippers depth a little bit better, but again, it all comes down to star power at the end of the day. So should be a good
Mhm.
series. I can't wait for that. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, already these two series is off the dome. You know what I mean? That's something we transition to the play-in for the Western Conference. So today's game at 10 o'clock, I believe. This is number 7 seed Los Angeles Lakers versus the number 8 seed Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think theoretically, on paper, this should be an easy win for Los Angeles, considering the amount of people that are out. Did they say if Cat's going to be in tonight or no?
I mean, they said that he was questionable, but I'm almost positive that he's going to be in.
Oh yeah, he's probably going to play. But regardless, I feel like well, actually, no. Before I say this, I did see a tweet yesterday where I think the net rating, I think with like Cat at the 5, and then I think Kyle Anderson at the 4, and all of that, was like a really good rating. So I'm not saying that you should be able to write them off, but at the same time, I do feel like that Minnesota is kind of willing for some reason to kind of lose this game and then go on to the next round of the play-in. So, but regardless, I do feel like this should be again more of a decisive win for LA. Just talk about them real quick. Unfortunately, Aaron is not here; he could not join us today. But I think we kind of noted how really nice or how really impressive Los Angeles has been playing recently since the trade deadline. With their new roster, their new acquisitions. AD's been doing his thing recently. LeBron came back cut off to a little bit of a harder or a slower start, but I think recently his jumper's been coming back. He's been doing his thing. Thank God. I love that. Love to see it. Can't wait. And then guys like Austin Reeves, they've been doing their thing. Schroeder's been guys off the bench. D'Lo, Vanderbilt. So as far as their team's constructed right now, I think Kyle Kuzma tweeted it today. I mean, like again, we said it again. The West is wide open. Again, as a LeBron fan and as an AD believer, I don't see why they couldn't make a run. So as far as that goes, I definitely am excited for them in the playoffs this year. But I think as far as this play in game goes, I think they should, as long as they come out and take care of business, I think they should be able to win, get some rest. And then as far as Minnesota goes, they'll probably move on, and I think, in my opinion, face. I was thinking about it for a little bit, but I think for the Pelicans and Thunder playing game, I think I'm going to give the edge to New Orleans. And I think it's going to be New Orleans and Minnesota. And out of those two, I don't know, bro. It's going to be hard to choose. But I'm assuming that Minnesota gets their guys back. I think I'm going to go Minnesota with that one. And it just sucks just because again, Zion, like it's just the recent reporting is he's not even close to coming back or whatever, and it just sucks to see that.
I just don't
And
understand how they don't provide a medical update at this point.
that's what I'm saying, bro. Like I don't, bro. It's just come on, man.
If it feels like they're just kind of like baiting their fans into like buying these tickets and then being like, okay, now he's not going to be playing.
Yeah, right. Like
Because like it feels like just a week ago they were like, yeah, we hope to have him back by the plane, and now this week it's like, oh, actually, yeah, he's not going to be back anytime soon.
yeah, bro. It's like it's crazy too because I feel like they were saying like yeah he's gonna ramp up activities, blah blah blah, and it's like now it's like yeah they have no timetable. Like bro, like it's just heartbreaking to watch, bro. It's just so like unfortunate, and especially the way that Ingram has been playing great like recently. He's been doing his thing. You know what
He's
I mean? It's been
been
crazy to
really,
watch.
really
Like,
incredible, especially
yeah,
playmaking.
playmaking has been great. I feel like like even like here, I feel like his defense has been nice. I think especially that Minnesota game, I think he had like 44 or something like that. He's been, you know what I mean, bro. It's crazy. He's been stepping up. It's like the same playoff version of Bi that we saw last year versus Phoenix, and I love watching that version of Bi, and the way he's been turning it up recently has been nice. And again, honestly, if he can turn up, the role players can do their thing. They could beat Minnesota. But as far as Minnesota goes, in terms of when they're healthy, they're really, really good team. So I'm going to give the edge to Minnesota there, and then have them win out the 8 seed. But yeah,
I will first say as far as the Lakers and Wolves matchup goes for that 7-8, I did really like Minnesota's play, especially the last month and a half. Gobert really started to find his groove once Conley came into the lineup. I thought that was a really good addition for them. Jaden McDaniels, all around great defender. He's probably going to be on my second team all defense, I would say.
okay.
He's definitely deserves a spot on there for how he stepped up, and he's shooting almost 40%, 50-40, not 90 from free throw, but 50-40 is incredible for especially with the defense he brings. Very unfortunate that he's not going to be playing for them because he's a guy that they really need in this type of matchup against the Lakers and going forward in the playoffs. So that's unfortunate. Edwards has just been incredible. He's really stepped up on the defensive side too. He's really turning himself into like a two-way star this past year. This is
what he could have been coming out of college, right? That's the kind of
he's been taking on the best perimeter matchup every night, it seems like, in terms of like the guards, and he's had the ball in his hands a lot more too. So he's kind of doing it all for them. The offense goes through him now. He's kind of like they feel like they kind of know that he's their core piece that they want to build around. So they've been doing all they can to maximize his game. Yep. Since Cat came back, he's looked pretty solid. Obviously, with Gobert out, he's going to be getting a lot more reps in this next game, even though he's been like somewhat limited in the games since he came back. But he's looked in those minutes, like you said, with Kyle Anderson and everything, he's looked pretty good. I'm assuming Torian's probably going to step into the starting lineup with McDaniels out. I guess that's what they're going to be going with. But his shooting has actually been pretty good recently too. So at the very least, their offense shouldn't fall too far behind with their losses right now. But in terms of the Lakers, yeah, like you hit it head on. They've been incredible since the deadline. The free throw disparity is kind of crazy when you think about it. I have said that. They've shot like 200 more free throws than the second best than the next team on the season now. Or I don't know if it's on the season, or since then. But either way, that's just wow. Is all I have to say. All I have to say. Like Austin Reeves turning into James Harden, but yeah, Reeves has played very well. He's efficient as hell. Really feels like every time he takes a shot, it's going to go in. It seems like. Yeah. And as far as D'Lo goes, he has been making the shots. He's looked pretty comfortable in their offense, but I still do have some questions, like with how well he's going to play in a playoff series. I still don't 100% trust him just based on his resume in the past, but I will say he has looked really nice with them so far. Obviously, Vando's a guy you want in any playoff series on your team, and then of course the obvious, they have LeBron and AD, and those two guys are going to carry you as far as they can. But yeah, I'll take the Lakers in that game. They're going to be playing Memphis most likely, unless the Wolves unless Anthony Edwards and Cat can give us like an all-time performance. It seems like, because they're not good vibes with that team at all right now, especially after the whole Gobert and Anderson incident.
What a terrible time for that to happen, bro. You know what I mean? Like, that's terrible. And then you're talking about James going to punch the wall and break his like. Come on,
Yeah.
man! Like, how are you going to fumble all this like right before that? Like, you know what I mean? It's
Just
ridiculous.
just
Like,
see that one thing where it was like Gobert had an interview literally the day before that game, and he was talking about Kyle Anderson's leadership, and he was saying like, yeah, he does come off as like a tough love kind of guy, but I don't take it personally just because I know he's it's coming from the heart from him. And then the
yeah,
next
yeah.
day punches him on
Next day, start
the
throwing punches,
sideline.
bro. That's insane. Nah, that's what I'm saying. So like, yeah, as far as they go, bro, I think it's kind of ridiculous in terms of how they kind of killed their own like atmosphere and their vibe. So I think the best way to go about it is again, like I either hoop today and then win out theoretically, but I doubt it. But you know,
I
move
mean, he
on.
did put he did post an apology, and it does seem like they've kind of settled their differences for now.
Yeah.
So I don't
But
think
then
it's
that
gonna.
stupid Wolves employee leaked the whole
Yeah, that's kind of
that's
like what is
insane,
the
bro.
what is it with this stuff? Like, first of all, there was that guy recently, and then there's the whole thing with like Draymond punching Jordan Poole, that whole video leaking. What is it with all this stuff recently? Like, I don't understand that.
Bro, they got to be getting paid like by the press. Like they got to be getting like you
Yeah,
know
it's
they
gotta be something. I don't like.
500K for that.
There's no way the first thing, like as an employee for the team, the first thing you're doing is taking a video and being and going to the press immediately. Like, yeah,
You're like, yo, he
here.
said this about Gobert, by the way. He said he don't like him.
Yeah,
Like,
bro,
bro,
he
that's
called.
insane,
Yeah, bro, he
bro.
called him a bitch like 3 times.
Bro, like that's ridiculous. But again, I feel like if the press probably pays you like mad bread, I guess get your bag though. But I mean, I'd low key prefer keeping a job in the NBA. But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
anyway, as far as New Orleans and OKC goes for that 9-10, I think it could go either way. Obviously, with like you hit it on the head with New Orleans, like that Ingram's been incredible. Herb Jones has really stepped it up.
yeah.
His shots been falling recently too,
He's
which
been
is
hit, bro.
which
He's been hitting his three.
mhm,
He's been his threes.
which is what you need. Trey Murphy has been on fire from three. He's had like a 9-3 and a 10-3 game in the last couple weeks, and he's doing it all for them. I saw also he's like the third player in history to shoot 60% on twos, 40% on threes, and I believe it was 90%. I think he's 90% on free throws. He's like the third player to ever do that.
That's what. Yeah, that's
So
ridiculous.
yeah, and then Valanciunas, I haven't really been too impressed with him recently, to be honest. But his minutes have kind of been falling off recently since Nance came back, and Nance has been really good in those small lineups they've been running.
Yeah.
And then CJ also, dude. The thing with CJ is he is the type of player you want in the playoffs. But there's some games where it's just like he's got to know his role, where he's got to
Yeah.
defer. Like
Right.
especially that last game against Minnesota, man. Like Ingram was on fire that whole game. He was like their engine. And then those last 2 minutes, Ingram, it didn't feel like Ingram had the ball at all. CJ was taking these shots. He had that one really bad turnover that kind of cost him the
Yeah.
game. So
Mm.
like I do like CJ. I think he's really stepped it up since the beginning. He had a really bad start, but he stepped it up since then, since Zion went down and everything. But
Yep.
yeah, there's some games where I feel like he's got to learn that he's got to defer if there's another guy who's going off on his team.
And no, that's a very interesting point too, because I think as far as NBA fans go, we all know the kind of caliber that CJ is. You know what I mean? We know his like scoring repertoire. We know how good he is. Like I think when he was in Portland, we were saying that he's like a fringe all-star sometimes here and there. You know what I mean? He has some crazy performances, but I definitely do agree with that. That was my issue, I think, sort of last year with the Sun series. I think the way it was. I 100% agree. I think CJ is that type of scorer that could be really useful for you on your team. But at the same time, with the way that this team's constructed, I feel like they got to know. I think Willie Reed's got to know how to I guess like manage CJ and kind of have like a set role for him. How to have like a spurt scorer type role for him. And it definitely issue was I kind of noticed that last year, and I think he's supposed to be that complimentary guy more than a guy that kind of just takes the ball and says it's my turn. You know what I mean? I do agree with that. And again, I feel like at the same time, I feel like if Zion was here, that would probably be a less of an apparent issue. But again, unfortunately, it isn't. But that's a great point. And I think CJ kind of has to learn how to be, that situational scorer, not more so that than a Portland type role where it's more like again your turn, my turn. Like you know what I mean? I'll run the offense here and there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's definitely true. And again, it's not even like he's still somewhat in his prime. It's not like he's old or whatever. You know what I mean? He can still do what he does. It's just, I think the volume that he's used to isn't what he should be getting off in New Orleans, if that makes sense. Like I know that's a weird.
Especially with especially with that lineup in particular, not really having like a point guard, and so like Ingram has kind of taken on that like pseudo point guard role. Well,
Yeah,
recently he's been like the full on point guard with like the amount of playmaking he's been doing. But I
right,
feel like him and CJ have got to like play off each other a little bit more, and
right.
CJ's got to try to learn how to get these other guys involved a little more as well. Because it seems
Yeah.
like
I feel
Ingram has
like
been kind of carrying in the playmaking department.
right, and that's another thing too. I feel like CJ, like he kind of has that gravity about him, right? Like, yeah, I feel like he could use that to his advantage to kind of help set other people up. Like, I think even in Portland, I think he had a couple of like pretty good assist games. You know what I mean? He could do it. You just got to
Mhm.
do it. Like, so yeah,
But
man. I mean,
with that
yeah,
being said, though, I am taking OKC in that game. I'm going to take OKC
in the
because
New Orleans game.
in the New Orleans game
Mhm.
because I think I just feel like SGA and those guys really want to play some meaningful basketball after these last like 3 years of
Mhm.
them like the past like 2 seasons at the end like a few games past the All-Star break. It feels like OKC just shuts down SGA because they have no
Yeah,
ambition to make the postseason.
yeah, yeah,
They just want
yeah.
to bottom out for these picks.
Mhm.
So SGA hasn't really played meaningful basketball since the year they had CP3 and Gallo and all them.
Yeah.
And I think it would mean a lot to them and their fans if they did make a little run here and get that 8 seed. And I'm kind of hoping it happens just because a guy like SGA, the season he's having, just I feel like he's got to kind of. I would love to see him put himself on like this national stage in the playoffs against a team like Denver in the first round.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like that's a series where he can thrive too, with the way he drives. They don't really have like an elite rim presence on defense. So I feel like that's a series where he can thrive, and I would love to see this group get like some postseason experience
Yeah.
because
The group of young guys they had.
guys
Yeah,
like
right.
Giddy have really stepped up this year. Like his shot's still not perfect, obviously, but
It's gotten better though. It's
he's
gotten
gotten
better.
better. Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's such an interesting lineup because they don't have like a center at all in their rotation. Like they
Right.
have Jalen Williams, not J Dub, but
Yeah.
Arkansas Jalen Williams
Yeah.
running the
Yeah.
five. I was not expecting him to be a 3-point shooter. So I don't think
Mhm.
he took them in college at all. And he's
Yeah.
like a 39% 3-point shooter for them right now,
Yeah. His
which
jumper
is
is nice.
insane.
Yeah.
And
And his playmaking and his charge drawing is
his
insane. Like
charge drawing,
I didn't
yeah.
think that would. I didn't think that would come over. You know what I mean? That's insane, bro. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was not expecting that from him, but he's been giving them some really good minutes. J Dub has been incredible, like
That's the boy.
especially
Rookie of the
these
year. Yeah, my man.
I wouldn't go that far, but
Okay.
he's second place for sure. But
Mhm.
yeah, he plays a lot. He's been playing a lot bigger than he is, running the four in a lot of lineups. It seems like, and he's outside of Dort. He's been like he's been their best defender as well. And he just does a little bit of everything. I really like how he's playing. Dort's always going to bring the defensive intensity. His shot selection still is still a little iffy, but you know we haven't the last time we saw Dort in the playoffs, he dropped like 35 in that game 7 against Harden, and they almost won.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really want to see this group in the playoffs. Of course, I love Isaiah Joe. He's like their number one bench guy now, and the Sixers are stupid for cutting him. They should have never done that. But yeah, I do hope that OKC makes a little run here because I think it would mean a lot to their fans. And then next season they're going to have Chet back. They're going to have some more picks come in, and hopefully they can get some. They can take another step next year.
And off the bench they'll get Jiang and Poku.
Jang and Poku. I will be honest though. Jang and his minutes he's gotten recently has been actually pretty impressive. Like
Yeah.
he's in their bench units. He's got the ball a little bit more, and some of the passes he makes are actually pretty crazy for a guy his size.
Right.
I've actually kind of liked what I've seen from him. I don't think he's going to be in the playoff rotation, but because they've got guys like Aaron Wiggins and Jeremiah Robinson Earl who have been more reliable that they've been playing all year. But yeah, I'm just this obviously this team, you can tell by the way I talk about them, they've been one of my favorite teams to watch this year, and I kind of hope that they do make a little run in the play-in.
I mean, speaking of, at the same time, what do you got to lose if you do play in the playoffs? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, might as well, right?
They have nothing to lose at this point. They have so many picks. They can do. They have all the assets that they want to make moves. So
Right.
they have a good group of guys right now to build around. So
Yeah.
at the very least, you can get them some more experience and get them honed for the years to come.
100%. And going back to that, hey, listen, I don't want to toot my own horn, but last summer, if you guys didn't read my draft write up, I was very high on Jalen Williams.
You were.
And I think with just watching this game, you can kind of tell that it's kind of that game that can translate to the NBA. So that was definitely one good thing about it. And then same thing with Jiang too, because honestly, I remember a lot of people were saying that we should have took him, before the Donovan Mitchell trade and all that. They were saying that we should have taken him at 14th, or before obviously that all went down. But and obviously I wasn't a huge fan of it just because of how raw he was, but at the same time, I did like his game. I did like what he showed. I think in Australia, and I thought again, it's just the way that I could think OKC did the draft last year was really nice. I really liked all the guys they got. And I even said it before the season started that OKC was going to be a team that I watched the season just because I like the names that they have. I like the just the amount of things they can do on that roster is great. And I think like major hats off to the Sam Presti in the front office again, because like even getting a guy like Isaiah Joe like middle of the season after getting waived, you know what I mean? It's like it's a great pickup, you know what I mean? It's like just doing stuff like that. And again, Robinson Earl, I love him. I love his game a lot too. So yeah, I'm glad they're doing what they're doing. And I think again, next season they should be a lot more scary. And I mean, we said it, like they have a treasure trove of assets that they can play around with too. So but I'm going to ask you this: do you think they're beating Minnesota, like healthy Minnesota, in the second round of the play-in?
I'm not going to say that I think they will. I was more so saying I hope they do. I would probably take Minnesota over them, to be honest, just because it seems like they have it a little bit more figured out at this point. And and I would take that their top end over OKC's top end. But I do think that OKC, I wouldn't count them out necessarily. I do think that they're going to play some competitive games.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, great point. Great points. But I mean, I think as far as it goes, though, I think that really is like all of it. I think kind of a longer episode too. I mean, because there's just so much to talk about. I mean, again, I think with the East, again, like we said, it's more like the top four theoretically should be moving on. I think that's a bit more of a consensus take. Again, if anything, maybe the 4 or 5 is a little bit weird, but apart from that, like East is whatever, but the West is going to be insane. And I really can't wait. Like usually, you know what I mean? I really don't. It's not like it's usually I'm like equally excited for both, but I feel like for this year, bro, like as far as what it is, I think as far as like all the drama and the storyline, the way everything's going, I think I'm really excited for the West. Like I really can't wait. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the West from the start, that first round is going to be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
The East may not be as exciting first round, but once you get to that second round with those top 4 teams, that's going to be a bloodbath.
Right, 100% is going to heat up, right? That's what I'm saying. I think that's probably the best way to put it. As like the first rounds are going to be crazy up the jump for the West. That's definitely true. So, yeah, guys, playoff basketball is here. Like I'm just so happy. Like
best time of the year.
Best time of the year. There comes a point in the regular season where you're kind of like, all right, like let's go to the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like I know it usually happens with a lot of things. With first of all, it's off season, then it's summer league, and then it's preseason, and then it's regular season. You know what I mean? It happens, but the playoffs are just, you know what I mean? It's great. And again, I think we should be treated from the get-go. Even with the play-in, we should be kind of treated for some good action. So I definitely can't wait. Again, play-in starts tonight. Like I said earlier, it's starting off with the Miami Atlanta series tonight at 7, and then LA and Minnesota at 10, and then tomorrow I think is the what is it called? The Bulls
Raptors.
Bulls Raptors, and then followed by the what's his face? The
Pelicans Thunder.
The Thunder game. So again, can't wait. It should be good. But yeah, guys, I'm glad we were able to do this before all this started. I'm gonna get this on Spotify within the next hour or two. And if you were watching this on YouTube Live, like Ricky and John, thanks for the love, thanks for support. We really do appreciate y'all. It. Yes, sir. If you're in Germany, danke. If you're in Aruba, what's up, baby? You know what I'm saying? So do show love. Like, subscribe. Get it out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Show love, all that. And yeah, guys, signing off. I'm Christy. I'm gonna catch y'all for the next episode. And Steve.
I'm Steve, and I hope you guys have a great playoffs and enjoy the show.
Yes, sir, baby. Yeah, we'll catch you guys on the flippity flip, and take care. Have a good
Day,
week, day, good.
month.
All right.